So Jen, obviously we've spoken before, right? We have spoken at least 5 times. You've had 5 sessions. So looking back on the 5 sessions, because it has been over a period of time. I think there was a gap there as well. It wasn't just one every 2 weeks. I think we had a bigger gap between the 4th and 5th session from memory. I think there was a wider gap there.
Yep.
So you've obviously had some time to navigate through the program, to evaluate how things are going, to monitor your progress and so on. So in your own words, talk about your experiences. Talk about how has the experience with the program been in terms of the one-on-one sessions, some of the recordings, some of the things you're doing on your own in terms of physiotherapy in conjunction with the stuff we're doing, the mindsets, maybe going for these walks. So yeah, I'll leave that with you, but feel free to talk about your experiences.
There was pretty much no harm in trying hypnotherapy. So I reached out to yourself, and you pretty much from the beginning, you said, I've never worked with someone that's had a stroke before. So let's try one session and we'll see how it goes from there. Pretty much from the first session, I was, to be honest, I was very skeptical about it. But from that point that you told me to look at something, and to open and close my eyes, and I wanted to prove a point and tried to open my eyes, and I couldn't. And I thought, okay, you're the real deal. You're over the other side of the world, and you've got me pretty much in a trance. It blew my mind. So after the first session and listening to a couple of the recordings for a couple of days, I managed to get my little toe moving. And then progressively from there, after pretty much every single time I had spoken to you, I get a bit more movement within my toes. So now it's actually all 5 toes move at some point, which is amazing. I would not have expected this from the beginning.
That's wonderful. So if you think back to the stroke, when that actually happens, because I believe it happens quite a few years ago, I think it was 2 or 3 years from memory.
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years, right? Now, obviously, you were doing a lot of work on your own with other seasoned professionals, specialists, and so on. And obviously, that's had some impact and, I guess, a sense of things can change. But do you feel that maybe, did you hit a bit of a stalemate in some ways, that you're sort of at your wit's end and thinking, what do I do now? Did you sort of arrive at that point on your journey within the 3 years into thinking, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah, pretty much. So I've seen anyone and everyone that you can think of. I have constant physio every single week. I've seen acupuncturists, I've done cupping, I've done Chinese medicine. I've gone to an actual gait lab to determine what's actually wrong with my walking pattern, so a physio can look at that further. I've tried absolutely everything, and I just thought nothing's really happening. My sister actually brought this to my attention. Say, have you tried hypnotherapy? Because the mind is it's a powerful tool. Maybe try it and give it a shot, and that's why I reached out to yourself. So now with the physio, initially there was no movement within my toes when she did the physio, but now my physiotherapist can actually see my toes responding every time she actually works on my foot. It's amazing.
What did your physiotherapist say when she saw your toes moving?
Oh, yeah, she was amazed. She thought that something had just happened overnight with myself, but I said to her, no, it's actually through hypnotherapy, and I've had one session and I've listened to a couple of recordings, and it blew her mind. She had no idea hypnotherapy could achieve something like this, because literally my toes went from not moving at all to now everything moves at some point. It's incredible.
That's such a beautiful story there. Do you feel that the experience overall over the 5 sessions, over the 2 or 3 months, has it sort of met with your expectations in terms of what you wanted to get out of it?
It's exceeded my expectations. I could never have imagined this would happen. I went in thinking, okay, if I get one toe moving, it's a massive achievement, but for you to be able to get all 5 toes moving and not just twitching a little bit, it's my little toes a few of my toes are quite responsive now. They can move a bit more than just a little twitch. And they're also straightening out as well. So my toes were initially very clawed and I couldn't release them. Now, pretty much, except for the middle toe, everything else is kind of straightened out. So, yeah, it's definitely exceeded my expectations.
That's wonderful. Well, it's in part with your determination, your commitments, have an open mind as well, following instructions. And, I think it's a collaborative effort in terms of the progress that you made. So, did you have a particular favourite moment during the course of the program, like a favourite session or experience? You mentioned the eyelids feeling quite stuck and locked, and maybe that dawned on you that, okay, something unusual is happening here, something weird. But was that the pivotal moment for you, or was it what happened after the session? Maybe when you're on your own and thought, oh, okay, I'm beginning to move one of my toes and so on.
The favourite session was probably, I think it was our third one, where you got me to hover my hands over my leg. I think that was the third session, I believe. Mm-hmm. The fact that I couldn't move my arms, and I wanted to prove a point to see if I could actually move them. I could not move my hands when they were hovered over my legs, and then he told me to bring it back down, and it took ages to come back down. So it went from being just 1 centimetre above my thighs, and I reckon it was over my head. It took forever to come back, but that was a surreal experience. But the initial first session that we had, the fact that I couldn't open my eyes and I also couldn't feel my limbs as well when you were going through that story, that blew my mind.
Yes, it tends to be part and parcel of the nature of this work. Did you have any sort of difficulties at all? I mean, were there any sort of moments where you had to face adversity or problems from the sessions where you didn't know what was happening and you had to maybe figure out ways to resolve it? Anything like that? Because it is quite an unusual situation. Was it quite tricky between sessions at all?
No, I don't think so. With your recordings that you had, you just said listen to them at night. It's only for 30 minutes, and then when I eventually got a couple more recordings, I would listen to one in the morning, one at night, and then if I had time between the days as well, I just wanted to get the most out of it as I could, and I think that's actually helped with my progress as well. So those recordings, it helps calm me as a person, and I just find I'm not getting as agitated as much, because I find it's the wind down at night or start my day in the morning.
Right.
But I'll definitely continue with those recordings.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with the recordings, is that it does have that lasting effect. But obviously the person needs to listen to the recordings on a regular basis to get the most out of it. And I'm really glad that you took that with you. Without getting into specifics in terms of how much you paid and so on, do you feel that the investments you put into the program was worth it? With the results that you got out of it and the elasticity and the movements and the progress you made, was it worth the investments you put in?
Definitely. Even if I were to get one toe moving or a couple of little twitches, the amount that I paid is, I would pay more just to even get that. Like, there's no price I can put on pretty much having mobility again, and to be able to actually do day-to-day things with my son. So the cost for me wasn't a factor. It was just more what I could get out of it, and it surpassed everything that I could imagine.
That's fantastic, Jen. I really appreciate your comments and your feedback and so on. You know, one of the questions I'll ask is, would you recommend this to others? And I know you've already left a review, so that tells me you would recommend this to others and so on. But did you have any sort of final thoughts about anything you wanted to share that maybe we haven't discussed before? Looking back at my notes with our sessions, and the two words that you told me in this recent session, in the 5th session, that you said the whole experience was beyond words. So, you know, if there's anything else you can share, feel free to. If you just want to leave it at that, you can. But do you have any final thoughts at all?
Yeah, like as you were saying, I did say it's what's happened throughout the 5 sessions, and over such a short period of time, when I've been going on this my own personal journey for over 3 years, and for this to only happen in 2 or 3 months is, like I was saying to yourself, it's beyond words. It's life-changing. I can't thank you. Honestly, I can't thank you enough. I know I've written it in the review and I've told you, but I seriously thank you, Marco. You've helped with so much, and it's only I'm going to have the constant physio, but now at least I'm going to have progress, and I truly think that I'm going to get back to be able to walk properly without hobbling, and to be able to run again in the near future. So my goal is to run at least minimum 5Ks, if not 10, because I used to do it before. But yeah, if anyone's skeptical about hypnotherapy, I don't blame you, because I was to begin with. My own husband was, but after seeing results, my husband goes, just continue with the hypnotherapy until you think it's sufficient. And changing my husband's mind, he was so skeptical, extremely. So anyone that is, I give it a shot, because it's definitely worth it. So whatever your situation is, I think it's definitely worthwhile giving it a try. There's no harm in trying if you have pretty much hit kind of a spot in your life where you think you can't really do, there's nothing else that can assist. I've actually recommended to people at work that want to, it's funny enough, someone actually wants to stop smoking, and I've actually said to them, hey, have you tried hypnotherapy? So I have recommended yourself, Marco, to a couple of people.
Oh, that's nice. It's very thoughtful, and thank you for your comments as well, in terms of, you know, sharing your experiences with your husband as well. And sometimes they can also put things in perspective that you think, wow, this one person who's normally very skeptical, very, you know, have certain beliefs about certain things, and then for that person to come around, you must think, wow, something really is going on over here. And he's right. You know, you do it until you think you can get back on your feet, no pun intended, and you feel it's sufficient, and you know, you get to still attend your physio and other practices and so on, and come back. There's other stories I can share with you, and because I tend to use stories in my sessions, and you know, stories by themselves, particularly hypnotic, compelling stories, do speak directly with that part of the mind where all this stuff happens. And you're one of the high responders, and you're responding really well to this. And you mentioned it is a journey, and I know you're on your own private journey as well. And again, from me personally speaking, I do want to thank you for putting your trust in my abilities, and trusting that this can work, and being open to the experience. And yeah, you know, allow me to guide you every step along the way. And I'm really happy to hear that you got some movements going on, and you know, it shows that problems that don't have to be so fixed and inflexible. You know, problems can be flexible. You know, problems can change. You know, the beliefs can change as well. So I want to thank you for that. I don't think, with the thousands of clients I work with, there was one specifically for this reason. In relation to what you've been through, and I do want to honestly thank you for giving this a go, you know, for having that spirit and say, hey, let's just try this out, see what happens, and here we are.
Not a problem. I'm so glad I did it. I honestly can't thank you enough for it.
But I think also as well, Jen, is that a lot of times people, they kind of do know, like they hear about it or they read something about it and so on. And there's a difference between actually knowing and then doing something about it, taking action and investigating, looking into it and so on. And unfortunately, most people, they have problems and they know they need to work on those problems, but it's almost as if they either don't care enough to do anything about it, or they don't get out of their own way to look into how they can help themselves. Because really, it's about people giving themselves permission to live a happier life. The authority to say, hey, I can better my life in some way, in some capacity. And most people don't give themselves permission to have a better life, and that's why they're stuck. That's why nothing changes. But
that's very true.
To commend your ability to make change, you had to seek it out. You had to take action. You had to, as the old expression, every journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And you took that step towards freedom, towards movement, towards your dreams. In many ways, your dreams have stretched and expanded because you thought, now I get to live my dreams in some way. And yes, there's still a journey, there's still the path ahead, but you're on that path.
I still can't believe, I went to a kid's birthday party and I was telling them, because they've known me since we were teenagers, I grew up with them. And they knew what happened, and then I told them that I'm doing hypnotherapy and I showed them my toes. They couldn't believe it, and they said, where's this guy located? Is he in Melbourne? I'm like, the business is Melbourne, but he's not exactly here. He's in New York. And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean he's in New York? They couldn't believe that you were located so far away and you could still put me into a deep kind of sleep, but without sleeping.
As most hypnotherapists, they still believe that things have to be done face to face and so on. And what I normally say to my clients is that, some subscribe to that belief, and all power to them and so on. But I've been doing this for years in this way, and it works just as well, sometimes even better, because you feel more comfortable. You're not worried about traveling. You're not worried about any sort of viruses lurking about.
Especially
restrictions.
In this COVID world.
Restrictions.
Definitely. That's why I went for it, because I thought, well, I don't have to actually see someone and just have a mask on the whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely the better option.
But honestly, I'm not going to forget this. I'm not going to forget you and the experience, because it's such a unique experience. And again, I do want to thank you for that. Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say, Jen, before we officially wrap up for today or this morning?
No, just the same. Honestly, it's been a surreal experience, and I really, deep down, I really want to thank you for everything. It has actually changed my life. So I can't thank you enough for it, Marco. It blows my mind every time I think about it.
Amen to that. And Jen, honestly, you actually made my day as well with this phone call, because there's always that one client or one interaction that something clicks with that person and everything falls into place. And you happen to be one of those people. So,
thank you.
Yeah, and I truly mean that.